pai na san pen tu nia I program ke hilo ini mo in le ma hi tu nia lam ka ngom soi bana cycle ale phakai chan na china na na jena na ki min chin cycle ale zana de te na program pai na san pen jang lowin pai lo na san dang kha su ni tum zani na zat tiwa pai kha zana program sat na hi zana ni ta la ma lam kang ya ka win tu ni na ila ka ma tu nia en jing ka pai na san pen jang ni tu nia mani kha na ji suang no na hi pai dan de i ama to sai sao lo pai na san kong gen ki yo le hi a ke ka hi le lal tu yen in na tian lam tin set pi bai ke la kong na hi em ke ka ti sa ka atom thei thei na em ke la wan lam china ka gel se ka wai hi set na bai li le in a national foundation for India cmn ya I NGO tong tong ya NGO tong no India gam tong te hi support sumle pai support ai ke le NGO ti wong khan to ina dia technical support guidance from mo organization on khan to jen ne wai ga grant to se le support dia ka yo wai te la hi ama organization khan le dia mo Meghalaya I Khasi hi la kha I naw pang school kai non lo naw pang te bang china anh sẽ nghe về làm chính công chính thấu lâu quan hồng quan thấu cổ của mình là hoài khi mà kiang hoa văn giật thế sinh là xuống thế ấy thì là sinh là lâu thế thì anh lấy số nào ra thì nè mua school số thế gì à thì innovative phát triển curriculum nắp thì phát design gì à hoài bạn là đi ama apian na Surjit là đi sorry I'm speaking in our local dialect
all right I'm happy with that
because I'm also alien to English no so
okay
pardon me for my inability, disability, or not able to speak either in Meitei or also in English very fluently. So, ama hi Manipura yang hiya Thobala, Hoybana, Sisipur Kongpa, Lamka Kongpa 1972 ay hiya, Hoylo jana kami na 1985 yang loket Kong di Meitei mo ko loy ka, Hoylo jana itu tuang para konvei na hiya. Mari Manipur Tai San Ue bang dang Khasi te la ana kosa ana te ama la ka tal te wana kham kia hi bana ama hi gandian philosophy which is ama wala malum mama te la ka gai what is that name that you have been working with Gopal what is that educationist Indian educationist
Anil Satgopal
Anil Satgopal Anil Satgopal is ya awal kan education lam te leong sin sak teo hi dei lawa Indian money on indigenous education knowledge te bo pa ide hi ja movement na sa India pung kian hi Anil Satgopal ji jang leo chin ho internet ale ama na sa ka collaboration hi close ka pung tam kian hi thwa to hi amo hoi ba na hi national curriculum development from NCERT to lai wi toi te pong hi amount development na kong review kong hi ama national level representative atelgi ya kata ya mo ama hi wai background saulo kong thar lo la wai bana ule la asem na hi yang organization aman ana pa ya dena ka bien mo i yang ani ten hin kwa te hi lesson men classroom men hi ja ka innovative ta I bang stick and stone method kong bang mga fil from innovative ta kila hi te bang le maybe you can also share some of your small initiatives that you have started in Khasi here.
Yes.
Maybe it was stick and stone method, which we keep chatting now when you were visiting Rinja village and all that.
Yeah.
So very interesting. I think it's quite innovative. But institutionalizing this kind of innovation in the larger context, I think it's very difficult. But I think he has been quite experienced in experimenting these kind of ideas across, at least in Khasi Hills and in different parts of the country. And without wasting much time, I think we can have a few round introductions very quickly. What is our name? Which organization we represent, or what is our profession in terms of what we do for a living? Then what interests you? What is your expectation in coming over here? Then maybe we can start from there. Once we finish, then we can take over this time. Is that a good agenda for today? Madam,
Hello everyone, my name is Surjit and I'm the headmistress of the So I am the high school everyone. I'm SLCM from Rostock Memorial High School. I'm the principal here.
Hi everyone, my name is Priscilla and I work as a research and evaluation officer in Himalaya.
I think if you can speak a little louder, that would be preferable.
My name is Sebastian and I am Thokchom by tribe. We both are from NIOS and in Manipur we call it MIOS, which is an autonomous outfit. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Siami. Right now currently I'm working as special educator in Advent Global School at Chennai.
My name is Zamtian Lal. I'm working as Deputy Medical Superintendent, District.
My name is Thokchom and I'm the manager here at Malcolm Resources.
My name is Tigo Milal. I am currently pursuing PhD degrees. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Surjit Thokchom. He's my father, I came with him. I'm a lawyer by profession.
Sam here. I'm the coordinator for development department in ABC. Yes, our director.
India is my name and I'm from EPC Church.
Thế mình có dân lắm không? Vẫn sự còn lớn vậy nè. Rồi viên bảo cái hiểm của bay sẵn cái gì nào vậy? Thì quay vào là Surjit, I think by faith also is our brother in faith, same brother in faith, and he's a deacon ordained, I think. If I'm not mistaken, I didn't get any mistake then.
I'm chairperson for the church now.
You can, the floor is over to you.
Okay. Is the mic working or?
I hope so. Even if it doesn't work, it's not for the mic, it's for the online streaming.
Oh, all right. My name is Surjit. It's not an original name. My mother gave me Ingova. Still, I'm so much in love with the name Ingova. But in certificate, my name is Surjit. In short, I call Surjit as Thokchom. As much as possible, I try to keep S for sing silent, because people got confused. Who am I? Many a time I used to get letter written expecting that I'm a Punjabi. So I started writing it as Thokchom. Thank you so much. I'm really elated, very happy, delighted, and hurriedly I built up some slides this morning. Is my voice audible or do I need to use the mic?
Louder.
Okay.
I think we can also sit closer.
Okay, sitting arrangement is okay. Or I can speak louder. Yeah. Can I stand here a little bit away so that I will not have the problem with yeah. Okay. Before we go to the slide, is it visible? Okay. Before we go to the slide, I would like just to give a little bit of the background of myself. In terms of identity, I'm still not very clear about who am I. Of course, I know I'm a human being, and till recently, I was not a happy person. But now I think I can take the liberty to call myself a happy person, because I realize now that I don't have any option except to be humble. I now realize that I don't have any option except to have a soul searching exercise. And I also understand now that I can never be completed my journey unless I interact with all of you. We is the identity, I is not the identity. We all have a common identity. The common identity is to make the world a little better. I believe that somewhere in the history of mankind, something gone wrong, and we need to take action in such a way that that wrong thing can be corrected. And in our life, to commit mistake is and was never impersonal, but it was individual. So therefore, education is basically a process of redemption. It's a process of restoration. It's a process of renewal. I would like just to put forward one important basic premises that a good education cannot be antithesis of my own individual, be it ethnic liberty or be it individual liberty or be it state liberty. Education must never be antithesis of my own well-being. Secondly, any institution that provides space for the growth and the security of myself, maybe family, maybe social institutions, maybe ethnic institutions, society as a whole, maybe state, maybe market. The education must stand for a synchronized well-being of all these components. Anything, any component, any atom, any dimension of education that has even the slightest antithesis of any of these parties, that education is yet to improve to a level that we call acceptable education. Now, with these premises, shall we go a very brief journey of the pre-independence India? Definitely, I was not born in the pre-independence India. My father was not born in the pre-independence India. My grandfather was also not born in the pre-independence India. Anyway, my generation of early times, in the year 1813, we were not a part of United India. So, there will be a kind of the historical juncture where that history highlighted in the standard Indian textbook doesn't match it with our need. In other words, what is relevant for the 90% of the population of India may sometimes have certain element of irrelevancy to ourselves. Now, let us not be selfish, but at least for the time being, let us be self-centered. Okay, with this, I would like just to put the first slide without much details. As we all know, for all of us who did study the subject of education, for all of us who have completed BA, DLED, MEd, for those of us who did history, and for all of us who are in the field of education, we know that there was education system before British came. And there are for and against of the system existed earlier. There was Buddhist education system, there was Islam education system, there was Hindu education system. Let us not look beyond 1813. So we start with the British education system. So Charter Act in 1813 started having a budget allocation. East India Company will spend 1 lakh of rupees for educating Indians. It took time to materialize this one, and it was only in 1835 Lord Macaulay minutes came into the picture. And in short, we call it this one downward filtration theory. In a nutshell, Macaulay was attempting to build up a set of Indian by color and blood and English in taste and intellect. So that was the beginning of the British education in India. There was a lot of debate. In fact, if we look into the western part of India and the southern part of India, there were a lot of struggle by people. Not much in the northeast, because in northeast, formal education started with the coming of the British as well as initiative taken by missionaries. And there was a lot of misinterpretation of the role of missionaries, in particular to northeast India. Many a time the Indian mainstream intellectual take it for granted that missionaries and the British government were colluding each other to have a cultural assimilation, which was not true. No substantial evidence is available to prove that British government and the missionaries were colluding each other. In fact, the missionaries were the people who took first initiative of freedom struggle in India. And even in the northeast India, the missionaries' attempt was all the time spoiled by the British government. And even Serampore mission was never started in a territory where British was having power. It was in the Portuguese territory. So that confusion has a historical implication for us in order to build up a discourse with the rest of India. Now, let me come to the Macaulay's Minute. The Macaulay's Minute doesn't impact us so much in the northeast India. Then there was a wood dispersed in 1853. Here the British government started taking responsibilities for taking the education forward. Then comes Indian Education Commission, 1882, it started expanding it. It was during this Indian Education Commission that Mahatma Phule from the present Maharashtra started submitting representation that education must not be for Brahmin, it must be to uplift the Dalits and tribals. Then comes the most important epoch of the Indian history in education in the pre-independence period, Vardai schemes of education. In Vardai schemes of education, Mahatma Gandhi, of course he was not a Mahatma yet, I'm not very sure about it. By 1937, the name Mahatma was not very popular, but Bapuji was popular. So let me address him as a Bapu. Bapu Gandhi, along with Zakir Hussain, presented a vision of education for India. I would like just to reiterate once again a statement. Educational policies are not educational documents. These are political documents. No education policy has ever met in any country without having a political bearing. The politics of the day is the foundation of that education. So therefore, Gandhi advanced his Naitalim with a new vision of India, wherein he incorporated the future India. Unfortunately, Vardai scheme, the Naitalim of the Gandhi, which was empowered to present that one of the Government of India Act 1935, was never materialized. I would like just to put a small episode on this. On the day that Gandhi's Naitalim was presented, it was before noon. And after noon, Bombay Plan was presented by Sir Dorothy Tata. And the morning session presented an economic system, a political system of a new India, wherein Apna Gaon, Apna Raj, my kingdom, my village, my kingdom, my economy. sustenance in the local level. That was promoted. And the whole philosophy was based on Gandhian approach of good life, Sarvodaya. In the afternoon, the presentation by Tata, what we call Bombay Plan, was the economic plan of New India, and it envisages a great India with strong economic system called capitalist economic system. So what was said in the morning was better in the afternoon. So that was how it happened, and Sasa Nehru was never in support of Gandhi's vision of India with local economy. So the Gandhi's scheme, Vardha scheme, was never materialized. Till recently, Gandhi's basic education was having a board in Gujarat. Now is also Gujarat Vidyapit is a university, but these are mandated only for separate isolated academic work. It's not mandated to become a system in India. Okay. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. Now in independent India, after 1947, for nearly 20 years, India was not having a policy for education. But we had a constitution before 86th Amendment. In the part 4 of the constitution, directive principles of state policy, Article 45 mandated to provide free and a compulsory education for all children of India up to the age of 14, and that was the only article in the constitution with a timeline within 10 years from the commencement of the constitution. Had Indian leaders be serious about this Article 45, then educational problem with India would never have been the way we are facing it today. But it was never taken seriously. Nehru passed away, I think in 1964. Then after that there was a short period. Then after that there was, during that period, 1963, 64, 65 is a difficult period for India. And then after that Indira Gandhi came, and Indira Gandhi was trying to continue the agenda of Nehruji to make a strong capitalist India. So therefore Kothari Commission was commissioned in 1966. Then it took some time, 64, 66 if I'm not mistaken. Then based on Kothari Commission, National Education Policy 1968 came into being. I am the product of 1968 education policy. And I met a gentleman in the morning who did his schooling in 1964, 65. So his education policy was not 1968 education policy. That was the continuation of the earlier pre-independence period's policy. Now I am the product of 1968 education policy. Then comes Indira Gandhi's emergency came in 1976. Education was shifted from state list to the concurrent list. And then after that, Indira Gandhi was assassinated, and simultaneously during this period, Berlin Wall was broken, dismantled, USSR was no more, the world became unilateral. It was during this time Rajiv Gandhi came into the picture, and Rajiv built up an education policy that prepared India for market economy. That was 1986. It was during this period, economic system in advanced countries like USA, Western Europe was in a bad shape. Vietnamese war was still going on, and Thatcher-Reagan policy was in the process. The Keynesian economic system was becoming prominent, and the Milton Friedman got Nobel Prize. And in all these situations, in the unilateral worldview, something happened, what we call LPG, liberalization, privatization, and the globalization. India accepted liberalization in 1992. Therefore, NPE 1986 as amended in 1992. In the meantime, World Bank organized a conference in the Jomtia in a small town in Thailand. So a global agenda came out called EFA, Education for All. India accepted that proposal. Therefore, NPE 1986 built up a new paradigm of education. What was the new paradigm of education in 1986? Compare with 1968. In 1968, education means going to the school. In 1968, education for the poor as well as education for the rich, they are the same. In 1968, there was no concept of vocational education. Of course, there was a concept of multi-purpose secondary school. That concept of multi-purpose secondary school was an attempt to incorporate the concept of basic education, Gandhian approach of crafts and education. But that was not vocational education. Now, in 1986, education was mandated to be provided to the people according to the people's capacity to pay how much. So education now is divided into two streams. The first stream is mainstream education. The second stream is called non-formal education. Now within the non-formal education, avenues are open. Open schooling started. Homeschooling concept was promoted. And the whole lot of new appointment for teachers, particularly para-teachers, came into the picture. Now the whole management system was different. So NPE 1986 promote a notion of education that you can have parallel stream depending on education for whom. So the education policy of India for the first time in 1986 stand for inequality, stand for inequity. So deliverance of social justice and maintenance and restoration of caste system, somewhere there is some compatibility. So Dalit, tribal, the people in the lower strata of the society, they were given substandard education. The rich and the well-to-do families, they are given more better education, and the policy itself mandated that one. There is a small paragraph in in the NPE 1986, the paragraph titled Resolve. Why this paragraph comes into the picture? Let us not forget that education for all, under the leadership of the USA and the Allied forces, education for all mandated that if you are not providing free and a compulsory education, let us not confuse with the free and a compulsory education, okay? A man whose name is a strong man is not necessarily strong. A man whose name is weak man is not necessarily weak. Therefore, a policy called free and a compulsory education is not necessarily free and a compulsory education. It is a politics of vocabulary. Within this, free and a compulsory education, the education for all mandated that if you are using your children as a child level, and if you are not giving free and a compulsory education to all, then we will not accept your product to be sold in the Western world. So the carpet industry suffer a lot, the spices industry suffer a lot. So therefore, India have to show to the world that we have educated our children. In order to educate our children, a stream comes called non-formal education, and the policy was met in 1986. The action plan will come in 1987, and by 1987, within the 1986 policy, the name is 1986 policy, but the document came into the pictures in 1987. In 1987, the government document says that the Indian children will be educated, all the Indian children will be educated up to class 5 by 1990. And India's promise kept by having record on paper that children are educated. Whether the children are really educated or not, that's an issue that we're supposed to debate on. So that was how 1986 policy was framed and it was implemented. And as of now, 2022, we have a policy in front of us. This is called NEP 2020, National Education Policy 2020, and there are 3 important characteristics of the NEP 2020. Very interesting. First, with the policy, we'll get a lot of confusion. Second, the policy is implementing without informing us publicly. Third, maximum number of government machineries are ignorant of these policies. Whether it is intentional or unintentional, I'm not the one who make a judgment, but this must, I can give assurance at this moment, up to today, that the machineries in the education department, including the top officials, they are very ignorant about NEP 2020, but it is now implemented. How? What is NEP 2020? Perhaps we can spend more time. I have a different slide on NEP 2020. Can we go ahead? All right. You know, many a time, no? We teachers, we on our this school, we the leader who talks about education, we all the time try to give an impression to the parents. Come on, yaar, it is for your child, no, we are working it. But now I would like to draw your attention. Shall we not sit together and ponder a while? This education we are teaching to our children in the school, it is for whom? It is for whose benefit? And I would like just to propose 3 parties that ought to be benefited from education. We cannot have an anti-state education. Education definitely helps us to build a good citizenry. Education is supposed to provide in the development of this country. Education supposed to promote in the economy of the country, and the education also supposed to give a lot of benefit to our society. And today we have an economy which is known as market economy, and education is supposed to serve the interests of the market. But education is not supposed to be only for students. Education is not supposed to be only for society. Education is not supposed to be only for market. Now, how do we make Bhimrao Ambedkar was a great man, still is a great man. I don't have any moral courage to say anything against him. With all respect, I salute him. But somewhere, for the tribal of the Northeast India, Constitution do have a special provision, what we call 6th schedule of the Constitution, which was the contribution of the Gopinath Bordoloi and the Nichols Roy from Meghalaya. But 6th schedule is a temporary adjustment. It doesn't go together with the main spirit of the Constitution. The India's Constitution has a mandate to try, even in Delhi, even in the mohallas of Delhi, even in the house of our Prime Minister, the value, the framework of the values that is promoted at home and the values promoted by the Constitution, they remain incompatible to each other. Dowry system is not accepted in the Constitution. Dowry system is still practiced. Untouchability is abolished by the Constitution, but it is still practiced Even if it is not practiced physically, our mind is still with unsecurity mindset. Our constitution talks about equality, and our society talks about inequality. So it is not a question of gap, but it is a contestation between values promoted in the society and the values promoted in the constitution. Now the constitution is to be advanced with the education policies. It is to be advanced with education. So therefore, let us not forget in our mind that formal education is in our village to oppose the accepted stereotype social norms. And let me make a blunt statement. Constitution has a mandate to convert, to transform India from a caste-based social norms to a progressive social norm based on equity and equality. Now, without claiming 100% authentication, admitting that even the values enshrined in the Bible has certain amount of bias, particularly gender biased. Large number of the values promoted in the Constitution is originated from British jurisprudence, and the jurisprudence was basically based on large number of the biblical values. And out of all the values, forgiveness, reconciliation, renewal, restoration, these are emanated from Bible. Now, this was accepted by Ambedkar and the large section of the leaders in India. So therefore, even today, the constitutional mandate and the social mandate may go together, may not go together. We have to see it from case-to-case basis. But there are still incompatibility in between constitutional value framework and the social value framework. But nevertheless, we cannot survive if society is against us. So for the poor and the marginalized section of the society, constitution can be a pole star, but it can never be somebody who helps us in front of us. It is a society who takes care of us. Therefore, to do something for society, to accept the social norm is a must. So therefore, there is a confusion about education for whom. Our education, the education we are providing in school, is it in the interest of state only, or is it in the interest of our society, or is it in the interest of the market economy? Does it serve the purpose for all of them, or is it biased? It has been overemphasized to one dimension and underemphasized to the other dimension. Because of this mismatch, are we getting dehumanizing education, or are we going humanizing education? Is a question to be answered through dialogue. It is not me who's supposed to answer, but it is we who's supposed to answer it. Yeah, can we go to the next slide? Okay, I would like just to draw the attention of all our friends. There is something called knowledge. There is a difference between information, knowledge, and the wisdom. I would like just to put the word knowledge without defining it. There are multiple definitions of what is knowledge. But there are three sets of knowledge that compel us to accept this knowledge with agreement or without agreement. It can be voluntary, it can be imposition, but we are supposed to be with this knowledge, three sets of knowledge. The first knowledge, I call it state prescribed knowledge. Have one or two children only. Why you are wanting to have so many children? If you're supposed to speak Hindi, you are an Indian. Your dress or your mother's dress is your local dress, but sari is national dress. Peacock is Indian national bird. These are state prescribed knowledge. And there is another set of the knowledge called people's prescribed knowledge. Please note the word prescription. Even state as well as society doesn't open for dialogue. Whenever they say something to us, they have a kind of a command over us. You like or you don't like, obey us. So now, the people's prescribed knowledge is a very, very strong knowledge. Even today, forget about the constitutional right. A village can outcast a person. Though Constitution of India give me the religious freedom, my village doesn't give me religious freedom. Though the Constitution of India give me the right to express as per my wisdom, something can happen if I talk so much against Indian state. So therefore, there is something called state prescribed knowledge. State prescribed knowledge can be divided into three levels. One is well documented prescription. Second one is hidden prescribed knowledge. The third one is the state prescribed knowledge that compel you to believe that you are responsible for all your mistakes. We eat rice this morning also. We eat good food. We eat puri. My room was clean because somebody cleaned it up and they are all illiterate and we say, you are the problem. Okay. I really don't know. If all the illiterate people stop working and they have a ceasefire protest one day, what will happen? But the notion is that all the miseries, all the problem of the world is because you are illiterate. And this notion was started from in India during the emergency period. And even today, we the educated people, we are expert in blaming others, but we are not accountable for what is happening around us. And this is the blessing of education for us, that we defend ourselves, we are the best. The problem is those uneducated people. There is a force called market economy. We still use laptop, we still use mobile, we use water bottle. Doctor says that you use lactose. It is not a prescription from the medical college, it is a prescription from the company. Okay. So many things in our life is influenced so strongly by the market that we simply became a puppet in the hand of the market. So the market prescribed knowledge is very powerful. Now, there can be some commonality between the state, peoples and the market. Okay. Bring clean water. Nobody will say get dirty water. State also will say you must have potable water. Company also will say you must have potable water. State also will say you must have potable water. But the market will say you buy it. The state will say get it from public supply. And the people will say go and collect it from the catchment area. So therefore, these three knowledges doesn't go together. They keep fighting to each other. And who is the winner? Finally, today state became a puppet in the hand of the market. Therefore, what is decided by the market, what is decided by the Google became the correct dictionary. What is decided by the Nestle became the right food to provide to our children. So market is very powerful. And they are now around us, they control us. At one time they were running after us, now we are running after them. Can we go ahead? So it is important for us to know whose education we are promoting. I would like just to highlight two very important objectives of education. One is social reproduction. Now, I was born and brought up in a Hindu family. I know thoroughly Mahabharata. I also know thoroughly Ramayana, because my grandpa was telling me every day. I knew that in whose clan I belong, where were our relatives, what are the nomenclature we use it for our relatives. This education was not a part of formal education, but it was educated at home. Now, that education was social reproduction. Even the values that is not compatible constitutionally, even hating people, hegemonic mindset, okay, undemocratic value system, not allowing me to be empathic. These are the values that I have inherited socially. This is social reproduction. Even if you go to the school or one doesn't go to the school, we cannot escape from this. This is social reproduction. Now, there is a problem. The school also gives us education, but is it for social reproduction or is it for social transformation? It's quite confusing. But there is a system of education that we can call it education for social transformation. America is America because they designed good education system earlier. Finland designed good education for themselves. China designed their good education. Japan became a capitalist advanced countries in a period of 40 years after the total destruction of the Hiroshima and the Nagasaki because they designed a system of education to reconstruct themselves. They transformed their society. And let's have a look to Singapore. Let's have a look to Taiwan. Let's have a look to the smaller countries like Cuba. They design their education to transform themselves and they get themselves transformed. So that was the kind of the education that we need for ourselves also. But our education, is it for transformation or is it for social reproduction? Somewhere we really need to question it. The education doesn't permit us to connect with our society. In the meantime, education doesn't permit us to transform ourselves. Then what is the objective of this education? Time for us to ponder, time for us to ask this question. Now, thanks to MK and thanks to Benjamin and Hazar, the word SDG I added this morning only. It's a Sustainable Development Goal. Almost all the education policies all over the world, except few countries like Cuba, North Korea, China, Finland, everybody is looking to fulfill the sub-objectives of the SDG 4 as per United Nations. India is also running it. And shall we or shall we not? It's up to us. But there are three well-defined educational objectives as of today. One is social reproduction, other one is social transformation, the third one is to fulfill the Sustainable Development Goal. Can we go ahead? Now, this is a proposition, it's not an imposition. This is a request to allow us to debate, to discuss about it. I'm assuming that we are domesticated human beings. I'm also assuming that we are still under the grip of colonialism. I'm also assuming that there is an imperialism called cognitive imperialism. Think not for yourself, but think for others. Our IITs in India is now preparing manpower for advanced countries. The institution like National Institute of Fashion Technology, their market survey through internet is about the market in France, market in England. The value framework promoted in higher education as of today is a part of the cognitive imperialism. Do we have the right to think? Do we have the right to claim? Do we have the right to generate knowledge? Do we have the right to transform ourselves? Or are we given a kind of the very truncated vision of future that my duty is to have 5-figure salaries by serving the interests of somebody else and forgetting my own places? This is a question to be asked. India is treated as a developed country, and I still don't know. Yesterday I was in Saikul, and in fact the people of Saikul must come to Imphal and have a one-day sit-in protest that we are still not developed. Okay. So this confusion has to be resolved. Now fight for epistemic sovereignty. I would like just to go once again very fast. When we talk about domestication, you know, we domesticate ox for ploughing. We domesticate horse for riding. We domesticate dogs for searching item. And they need a lot of training. And we need to domesticate them with a lot of love. If I have a dog, dog needs health. If I have a dog, dog needs skill. If I have a dog, this dog needs a happy home. So the hope of this dog must be aligned to the hope of me regarding this dog. My dog must be handsome, my dog must be obedient, my dog must be healthy, my dog must be obedient to me. Are we still treated as a dog or not? It's a question. And domestication or de-domestication is an educational exercise. Then 1947 British left. But still, the whole mindset is still within the colonial mindset. Why? Because our school is still a colony. What is happening in the school, what is practiced in the school, what is promoted in the school is not having any connection with what is practiced at home. So therefore, school is a state colony. One may be doing yeoman service by having a private school. You may give very good education, but this education is based on the structure provided by the state. It is also based on the curriculum created by the government machineries. By and large, our curriculum is still the continuation of the colonial period's curriculum. Why colonial period's curriculum? Colonialism and the imposition of knowledge for the benefit of the colonial power are the two sides of the coin. Therefore, we have to question it. For whose interest the knowledge are transacted to us? It is only for ourselves or it is for something else? Of course, I may be wrong. I hope I am wrong. Now, coming back to the cognitive imperialism, it's a serious question. Okay, let me just give an example. Tinkle, tinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are up above the sky so high. I think there is a line called like a diamond in the sky. Let me add one more line. I have never seen the sky. So, associating the feeling and the knowledge and the experience make the knowledge alive. But the system compels you to memorize few things as an information that doesn't permit you to convert it into knowledge. So our children have to draw beautiful flowers diagram without having any connection with a flower outside the school. Our children will still draw the pictures of the Ursa Major and Ursa Minor in the sky without having a time to stand in looking to the northern sky and trying to locate North Pole, Pole Star. So somewhere the pedagogy is designed in such a way that you are not permitted to engage yourself in an intellectual discourse. You remain a computer, that the information will be retrieved as and when the people in power would like you to spell it out, that information. Coming back to fight for epistemic sovereignty. You know, all of us, we fight for our territory, you know. I don't know, Manipur, quite a lot of the parties are fighting for sovereignty. I too. I hope that someday I am in a sovereign state, provided there are roadmap for that. Yes, we must have sovereignty. And I believe that India is a sovereign country, so therefore we are citizens of a sovereign country. But do we have the right to think? Do we have space to design by ourselves? Shall we wait for a PhD holder in architecture to come and design our village? Shall we leave the future of the Loktak Lake to the educated peoples only? Shall we think about our society, our well-being, because we are thinking individual? Are we making our children thinking individual? Epistemology is a subject that deals with the nature of knowledge. So when we are not permitting our children to think today as a child, they are likely not to become a thinker when they become adult. Anyway, we are supposed to fight for the ability to generate knowledge. Unless we have the power to generate knowledge, we can never be a person who can transform ourselves from within. Transformation cannot be imposed. Transformation is supposed to be from within. There must be an agreement with what is taught to us and what is within me. And it is because God created us as a human being. We are different. We learn a language, dogs and a cat doesn't learn the language because we have a genetic capacity. That genetic potential has one very important potential. Each one of us has to contribute to restore the Eden's garden. Each one of us has to restore heaven on this earth. That capacity is to be invoked through education. That is what we call fight for epistemic sovereignty. Okay, let us fight for our territorial sovereignty, but territorial sovereignty without having epistemic sovereignty will not permit us to stand on our own feet. Therefore, epistemic sovereignty is a must. Can we go to the next? Some line is missing it, but I would like just to. So I'm proposing any good education. I'm not saying that the present education doesn't have it, but let us make an attempt to have an evaluation of the present education. Does it give hope to us? Does it give us health? Does it give us happiness? In my hurriedness, I could not give the definition of this hope. So let me put it this as verbally. Hope. Anybody who has past and has present and has a future. In short, anybody who is a historical being have the opportunity to do three things. One, learn the lesson from the past, take the opportunity to act it now, to make it a new reality, a new horizon, a new heaven in future. That person is called a historical being. When we have this status, I'm no more ignoring my past, I'm no more ignoring my present, I'm no more ignoring my future. When I became a person like this, then I'm no more this body. I became a part of a collective. I don't die when this body left my soul. I was not born when I came out from my mother's womb. So there is a historical continuity. A person stand for this historical continuity is a person with hope. It is not about getting a Maruti car tomorrow. It is not about traveling in the Eastern Europe. It is not getting married with a beautiful lady. It is not about having beer tonight. It is about history. And history has three important components: the past, the present, and the future. If we are not a person conscious of these three domains of time, we are not a historical being. And I propose that education must teach us to be a hopeful person. That means to be a historical person. Health, I wish that we all fulfill the mandate given by the World Health Organization, health mentally, spiritually, and physically healthy. Now, what about the happiness? What is happiness? To me, happiness means we are struggling people. Happiness means we are in journey. Happiness means we have a vision. So happiness basically must have three components: a vision, a mission, and a goal. If we have that one, then we are a happy man. It is not about having a mobile and enjoying and seeing the YouTube. Yes, that is also part of the happiness, provided it helps you to have a vision, to have a mission, and to have a goal and strive for that goal. Can we go ahead? Now, there is a problem in our education. We talk about information, we talk about knowledge, we talk about wisdom, and the knowledge and the wisdom are seldom in our system. Our system as of today transacts information only. And if we look into the Yashfal Committee report, Learning Without Burden, we are so much talking about enabling the children to acquire knowledge. And acquiring knowledge needs at least 3 components. Feel it, know it, experience it. This is mission. So this is a proposal for further discussion. Wisdom. If we know a lot, if we don't have wisdom, we still remain a corrupted person. Very wise IIT product, after having PhD in mechanical engineering, come back home, accept dowry. Very wise intellectual person who did 5 years degree course in theology, come back in Kerala's village and accept dowry. Very intelligent people, they will come back and they will remain unempathic. So therefore, knowledge is not adequate. Information is not adequate. We need the wisdom. And I'm borrowing the definition of the wisdom. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So we have to have a human mandate. We're supposed not to have a devilish mandate. Please next. Okay, therefore I'm proposing a pedagogy to be used in the present formal system. This is already incorporated in the National Curricular Framework 2005. Okay, little bit about it. National Curricular Framework 2005 was formulated after having 21 position paper created by NCERT, and I was a member in a position paper called Work and Education. So that way I was involved in making the curriculum, and NCERT 2005 was translated into all languages of India which are under 8th schedule of the Constitution. So I was the official translator for Manipuri in NCERT 2005. My experience of translation reveals to me that a language can never be so robust, it can never be so advanced if the society is not advanced. Advancement of the society is not about brick and the mortar and the wall. Today, when we talk about advancement, we are talking about democracy. We are talking about progressive values. We are talking about gender equity. We are talking about absence of gap between poor and the rich. And the society is yet to become democracy, therefore there is no word to represent democracy. It's a hard task. So therefore, translating a beautiful book for a not so beautiful society is very difficult task. But anyway, I did it, I was well prepared. Okay, so I'm proposing a pedagogical structure. In this new pedagogical structure, I think I need to go a little shorter because I used to forget. Okay, triple C. I'll go fast a little bit. This is concept, context, and concept, context, and content. Whatever we teach in the school, within the structure, we teach many things which is not in the curriculum, but it is not permitted to ask in the question. So therefore, let me confine to the content of the curriculum. Whenever we are in the school, we are bound to accept the curriculum provided by this structure. So therefore, that content has to be confined. So let's talk about food and nutrition. But the context must not be the book. The context must be the food at home. Then the concept can be built up. So Teaching is basically naming the concept. If we don't know the concept, by memorizing the names, it still remains a noise. It is not at all a knowledge. It is not even information. So therefore, a deliberate attempt to put three things together: concept, content, and the context must be practiced in the classroom of any level. If this is what we demand, then we still need books, but books become inadequate. We need to reach out to the nearest place. Now, second one is the mother tongue. Let's not forget, mother tongue is not simply language. It is a repertory of people's knowledge. And the language, for our pedagogical purpose, we divide language into two sets. The first is called basic interpersonal communication skill. Please do like this. Make it like this. Do it like this. These are demonstrative language, and the people's language isn't demonstrative language. So if you don't participate, if you don't cook, you will not get the knowledge. If you don't work in the field, you will not get the knowledge. If you don't go to the work, you are not entitled to get that knowledge. So knowledge is transacted through work. Now this knowledge, linguistically we call it BICS, basic interpersonal communication skill. And this is what we call mother tongue. Now, the interesting things about this basic interpersonal communication skill is that a word doesn't stand for cognition alone. It also doesn't stand for connection alone. It also doesn't stand for psychomotor alone. The emotion, the hands-on experience, and the thinking process are all clubbed together in one word. And these words used by the people may not be necessarily verbal word. There is a lot of gesture. Do like this, do like that. This mother tongue is what the child originally programmed in order to acquire knowledge. Therefore, extremely important to engage in mother tongue. And I salute to MK because he was talking in a language that is not known to me. It's such a privilege that somebody is talking in somebody's mother tongue and I am not angry. What a blessing. Okay. Now, let's come to this science and the maths as a language. Let me ask you one thing. You know, science is a very poor subject. As a subject. And it is also a very easy subject. Why? Because science select few component of the knowledge. Science alone we can never live it. But science select few things. Therefore, what is science? It is in our kitchen. It is in our bedroom. It is in our market. It is in our life. But everything in our life is not science. So science select certain things. Now these certain things, science built up a standard language all over the world. Convex, concave, focal point. All these are scientific knowledge. Angles, point, line. And science is a very funny subject. You know, momentum. Momentum is a beautiful word if you look to the political science, if you look to the psychology, if you look to the literature, it's a beautiful. But science defined in physics as a protocol, mass, and acceleration. And again it is mass and velocity. And again it is also defined that it can be numerically represented. Now, science attempt is to limit our scope of thinking and confine it to a particular stream. That means if we talk 100 words in our daily life, out of these 100 words, 2 or 3 is scientific language, scientific concepts. It is nothing isolated from our life. So therefore, learning science is rediscovering and reassessing once again in my life what is science, where is science. It is not about coming from UK or it is coming from England. Therefore, science and mathematics must be a language learning and it must confine to mother tongue initially, then can switch over to the other language also. Now, let me go here. Everything around us is a resources for learning, including my papa and mama quarreling every day. Hope nobody quarrel like that. And even my mother asking me not to use mobile, but I feel like using mobile every day. Whatever happening around us is a learning resources. That means we're supposed to learn how to slow down and ponder about real life, not about, of course, literature, projecting others' life, these are all part of it, but whatever around us must be resources. If it happens like that, then the children in Imphal will suffer because they don't have environment to learn biology. The children in the far-flung area in Chaikul, child just come out of the house and then started roaming around, he or she will get 20, 30 flowers to study it. So then, if we study a flower, China rose, we still not yet learned science. But if we study 20 flowers, then we build up the pattern. Colors are different, shapes are different, size are different, but every flower has 4 parts, calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium. Some flowers are complex, some flowers are compound, some flowers are simple. Now, this learning makes a child understand what is science and flower. So, we must use our resources in the optimum level. Now here, I propose very strongly that if we really want to use education as a transformative power, then our home and our school must have continued. If the school say, wash your hand, if the home doesn't have water to wash it, then wash your hand is not a health and a hygiene instruction, it is an economic question. If the school says, school teaches about gender bias, and if the child cannot perceive how much my mother is working and how much my brother is ignoring, if the child is not having this social sensitivity, then what is the use of education? Anyway, education is to become a better human being. So therefore, within this, at home, there is no physics class, there is no biology class. At home, we deal in holistic manner. A farmer do everything, and here in the school focus is exam, at home life is the focus. So we propose that even in the school life must be the focus, then the knowledge will not be partisan, knowledge must be holistically interconnected from one branch of the knowledge to the other branch of the knowledge. Lastly, we propose that work, not industrial work, the work that gives us health, happiness and hope, must see the pedagogical tools to acquire knowledge. Football, if it gives us hope, if it gives us health, it also gives us happiness, then let football be the medium through which the children's mathematical knowledge are acquired. Cooking, anything that we do it, our head, our heart, our hand supposed to be simultaneously engaged. So therefore, cognition in isolation of the cognition is patriarchal norms. You cry because you learn. So emotional stability, emotional growth, emotional achievement and cognitive achievement along with psychomotor achievement supposed to be holistically interconnected. A child getting scored in health education not having good health is an insult to the education itself, but it is happening. So therefore, somewhere we really need to revisit once again. Can you go ahead? Well, this is one thing which I would like to highlight it. What is happening today? We have a constitution. From the constitutional values, we built up a policy. And in case of the policy, the constitutional mandate are reprioritizing. Which one is supposed to prioritize first? On the basis of this select priority, we form a national curricular framework. Policy is normally done by ministry. National curricular framework, this is normally outsourced to NCERT. Then after this framework, we build up curriculum. Building of curriculum is also done by NCERT. They make a sample curriculum, but normally it is done by the board, either CBSE or ICSE or state board. Then after that, syllabus is framed. After syllabus is framed, we started looking for textbook writer. Then a textbook is approved after completion of the writing. Then only it comes to the classroom. All this process, teachers are not involved, parents are not involved, we the people are not involved. These are all done in the air-conditioned room. Now, there are times that symbolic engagement is there. Teachers' representative may come to the curriculum, but it doesn't happen. Of course, NCERT 2005, I was involved. We try our level best to involve as many as possible. But in the final report, the ministry says that you have done your work, now let us do our work. So they will all the time scream out things of not of their choice. So finally, people's voice is not normally incorporated. Then comes classroom TC. It is something is happening in the stage of the classroom TC. You know, sometimes it's quite pity for the teachers. Why are you not starting TC? Textbook is not yet come, no? As if he has nothing to teach or she has nothing to teach. Sometimes we feel that it is an excuse. You can teach something, but he is not paid to teach something. He is paid to teach the textbook only. So he is doing his duty by delaying the teaching. So it is here teachers are involved, but still parents are not involved. Still children are not involved. Evaluation is the most important part, because evaluation will decide what to do in the classroom. Few years back, most of the state in the Northeast, they said that class 9 and the class 10, only the class 10 portion will be included into the class 10 exam, board exam. So large number of the schools started teaching class 10 textbook from class 9. Exam matters. So therefore, evaluation is a very important area. Now, after evaluation, we have certification. After certification, we have job. After job, only question of dignity comes into the picture. And then after that, only the meaning of life comes for educated people. As long as you have not yet landed to a job, you don't have dignity, you don't have meaning of life. So therefore, the whole process of learning, starting from the age of 3 up to the age of 25, master's degree, PhD, whatever we do it, finally the target is get a job, have a dignity, and then have meaningful life. So this is the structure at the moment, and shall we agree this or not is up to us. I am just presenting as it is of today, the educational structure in India. Please go ahead. Now, this is very important for us. In paper, in the document, at least, the curriculum is created to fulfill the interests of all three groups, the people, the state, and the market. The structural inclusion of the people is yet to see, but the structural inclusion of the market is now happening. Okay. Especially in higher education, the corporate giants are invited for suggestion. And even in the education level, there are issues like disabled children's issues. There are issues like the marginalized section of the society, unreachable location and all that things. So these are all depends on imagined realities of some XYZ. People are not yet involved in the process. State normally do it. And market, yes, started involving it. And I wish that someday people are involved. So I would like just to read a beautiful verse of the Khalil Gibran. It came out in 1883. You can muffle the drum, you can loosen the string of the lyre, but who shall command the skylark not to sing? I hope all of us are skylark. We shall all come. Thank you. Expecting a lot of questions. Is this water?
Yes, yes. Ndam na pangom de amo, dat na pili ma dan na ite te kele kubbe na amo.
Yeah, please ask any question or any comment. In fact, I have two more slides if you'd like. NEP 2020, I have not yet explained. Then we have a particular, with a particular reference to the Northeast, we have a kind of the uncommon educational issues and the problems in the Northeast. Compare with the rest of India. So I also have another slide, but then may not be wise for me to push so much. I would like just to get your feedback first.
Which we go ahead with the NEP.
Pardon?
NEP. Shall we go ahead with the NEP?
Okay. Okay.
Maybe they'll.
Maybe in a summary, maybe a little bit about.
Yeah, it's around 7-8 slide. I can go very fast.
Yes.
Okay, let's go for that. Yeah, this is okay. I prepared it for yesterday's day before yesterday's program. Okay, shall I go ahead? Yeah, thank you. I think. Can I stand here? Is it possible? Okay, NEP 2020. Let me try to go a little fast. Yeah. It was started discussion after the BJP government. Initial document was 480 pages. Then it was kept silent for a while. Then after that came out with 250 plus pages. Then the final one comes around 100 plus pages. And the average version available in the website is 66 pages. And the color of the first page is saffron. I have the printout, but unfortunately I don't bring it today. So if we go to NCERT website or if we go to the ministry's portal, it's easy to download. It is 66 pages, including the cover. Without cover, it is 65 pages. In NEP 2020, education is divided into 5 broad structure, 5 broad components. Broadly, higher and school education and higher education. In school education, again, it is divided into vocational education and school education. In higher education also, vocational education, professional education, and general education. So around about 5. I will not go to the details, but I would like to go to the basic changes brought in NEP 2020 compared with the previous one. Okay, the NEP 2020 divides school education into 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. In other words, from 3 years up to 8 years is called foundational course. Then from the 9 years up to 9, 10, 11 is called level 1 course. There is another name given. Then after that, in the 3 it is called middle school. This is up to class 8. Then class 9, 10, 11, 12 is clubbed as a secondary education. And one of the mandate for this new structure is that with this new structure, we will resolve the crisis of dropout. And India's children still dropping out in the large scale. There are good dropout as well as bad dropout. I wish that Mary Kom is also a dropout. Yeah, she was a dropout, but still high achievement is something commendable, but every dropout doesn't achieve equally. So how to resolve the issues of dropout? So here, the NEP 2020 proposed that let there be adequate infrastructure, let there be adequate counseling. Please, not counseling. Believe that they are ignorant, therefore they are dropout. It is not because of economic or social compulsion. They are ignorant. So therefore we must encourage them to come to school. Then, please note, in the NEP 2020, there is no notion of reservation for ST, SC, and the OBC. The whole concept of reservation in admission and in employment has been done away. Instead of that, a new concept comes called SEDG, socially and economically disadvantaged group. Who are supposed to be socially and economically disadvantaged group? I think the file is still pending in the new Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog is the new avatar of the Planning Commission. Today we don't have Planning Commission, so the whole notion of the 5 years planning is no more valid. The Niti Aayog file, I don't know whether it is moving forward or not moving forward. In any case, we don't have a well-defined definition of how to identify people in the SEDG. In the meantime, SC, ST reservation and the OBC reservation has been done away. So we know what is happening in Delhi University, what is happening in IIT, what is happening in the TES. The scholarship has been curtailed, so the Dalit students, ST students are suffering a lot. And even last year's intake of TES was abruptly reduced for ST candidates because the government is not giving the subsidy, so the institution doesn't have any choice. They will not be able to give education to the marginalized section of the society. Now, there is a new entry coming into the school education, that school education must be permitted to acquire education through open distance learning mode, National Institute of Open Schooling and the State Institute of Open Schooling. Then homeschooling for disabled. The argument for disabled children to be included into the mainstream school is no more a mandate in NEP 2020. If your child is disabled, educate at home, will provide you materials. Now, then vocational education. Now, the concept of vocational education in the NEP 2020 is different from the vocational education concept earlier. If you are doing a business and your child is now engaging in your business and your business establishment is a registered business establishment, then your child not going to the school but helping you in your small enterprises, that will be treated as a vocational education. And if your child want to go to the mainstream education, permitted, provided your child is qualified to pass in the tests taken by the national testing agencies. So vocational education, occupational vocational education is promoted. And then PPP. Earlier, PPP stand for Public-Private Partnership. In NEP 2020, PPP is used repeatedly in every chapter. It means public philanthropic partnership. So philanthropic bodies partnership must be encouraged, and they are targeting CSR, Corporate Social Responsibilities Fund. Can we go to the next one?
Sorry, excuse me. Regarding homeschooling,
Yeah.
that means that these able students are to be homeschooled under NEP.
Yeah.
That means what about inclusive education, inclusive institutions?
Inclusive education will remain as a noise. They will not consider inclusion very seriously. Unfortunately, protest is not visible up to now, but the NEP 2020 have almost no provision for disabled. There is a concept of Divyang, but it is all the time exclusion. Because they say, we'll help you through online. We'll make your resources available in the online. So, and there is still another confusion when it comes to the governance will be coming in. So, school education curriculum. Now, this one is new, this one is new, this one is new, this is from the before. So, this is National Curricular and Pedagogical Framework for Early Child Care and Education. It will be created nationally. The textbook for our children from the age of 3 up to the age of 8 will be mandated by the center, and this is called national textbook. It will be written in Delhi, and there is 3 words they added with local flavor. It will be permitted to translate, but it will not be permitted to change it. So there is another, later on it will come, epistemic dimension. Hinduism is not religion, it is the Indian way of life. The Bharatiya Prasin knowledge is to be promoted everywhere. And there is a teacher called SSS, Simple Sanskrit Teacher, SST, with my name is. So Simple Sanskrit Teachers. So Simple Sanskrit Teachers will be centrally sponsored. It will be available for all school, but for our Paite language, will they give money or not? Maybe, but assurance is not there in NEP 2020. So now this is as good as we are doing now. But again, framework will be created by NCERT. Secondary textbook will not be created in the state level. It will be created centrally and permitted to translate into local languages. Then here is one, foundational literacy and the numeracy by NCERT. This textbook will be created by NCERT, strictly by NCERT, to be translated into local languages, and this will be taught to our children. Now, the curricular framework for the early childhood care center will be followed by this foundational course. That means up to class 5, it is only literacy classes, nothing beyond that. One can add more, it's up to us, but it will not be evaluated. Yeah, please go ahead. Now, here is the school education quality. Some of the term, even myself, I used to forget it. So, this is performance, assessment, review, and I forgot one A is there, and this is knowledge for holistic development. This is a centrally it's a centrally created structure, not yet, but this will be online, and they will do the assessment for school quality. And this is again state, this is state achievement survey, national achievement survey, national testing agencies. All this structure, the manpower, of course the women power also, will be pulled out on deputation from the state structure, from the state department, but this will be reported. A copy of it can go to the state, but the state ministry doesn't have, state department doesn't have any right. It will be reported directly to the state. Achievement survey will report to the NAS. So there will be a completely new centralized structure which is now already in place. Yeah. So the quality will be decided by the center, not by the state. Okay, can we go ahead? All right. Even in my slides, it's not there. There will be no 2 years B.Ed course. For some time, it may be for the transition, but there will be 4 years degree course. Now, all the independent B.Ed colleges will be closed down. No college will be permitted to affiliate to the university. Every college will be converted into university. University will have 3 types. One is research-based university, other is degree-based university, other is skill-based university, and all the universities must be multidisciplinary university. Since it is B.Ed courses, I am referring to the higher education. So this structure is now already in process. The NITI Aayog has already built up the budgetary allocation. So in a very near future, things are going to be visible, but this government has the skills of implementing without informing us, so we really don't know when it's going to happen, this one. Now, this one, for the teachers, there will be, we also have it now, eligibility test, teachers eligibility test. This will continue it, and there will be national testing agencies. Now, as of today, the state will decide who is qualified, who is not qualified by having a teachers eligibility test in the state level. This will not be the criteria. The person has to qualify it in the national level through a testing agency called NTA, National Testing Agency. Then only the teachers will be qualified to work it in the school. vacancy projection. The B.Ed admission will not be as per capacity of the intake of the university. B.Ed admission will be on the basis of how many B.Ed teachers is required in the days to come. And here is a very complicated process. When we come to the school complex, we'll know it. Now, here is a innovation in governance is encouraged. It's a good thing. Then here is a career progression development. And here careers management program. Both will be controlled, mandated, trained by a central agency. They are now putting to NCERT as a task of the NCERT to do this one. It will be partially online and partially offline. Then tenure track. Every teachers will be tracked their performance online. That means a teacher working in any school, be it private or be it government, they will be busy filling up the form in the apps in this every day or every week or every month, depending on the central government. And your immediate headmaster may not be the persons to give score to the person. It will be evaluated through online tracking system. And based on this tenure track, the persons will be incentivized. What are the incentives to be given to the teachers? We'll come to the next slide. Now, this is again PSSB under, this is General Education Council. It is one pillar of the higher education. And this is standard setting board, professional standard setting board. So a board in the central level will decide what are the standards supposed to be followed by the school. And most likely, the school run by the missionaries will have thousands and one rules of do's and don'ts. And as far as Hinduism is concerned, it has been accepted by the Supreme Court not as a religion, but it is a way of life. And that too, not way of life of us, but way of life of we the Indian. So there is still ample scope for us to be very fluent in stories related with something to do with Hinduism. So let's go next. Now, school education, equity and inclusion. Here, as I mentioned earlier, there is a concept of SEDG, which is not yet worked out what will be the nature of criteria to become a person in SEDG. Now, let us not forget that up to now, we have privilege called minority right. Those who belongs to the minority religion, they are given some kind of the incentive, some kind of the help in the form of scholarship for professional courses. And some of the professional courses are very costly. IIT, NIT, NIFT, these are very costly. Each semester fees goes in the tune of the 1.5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs. And as of now, the Ministry of Minority, they are giving scholarship, what we call merit cum means scholarship. In NEP 2020, this will not be entertained. So there is a alarm bell ringing it now for all of us who doesn't have enough money. Then there will be a concept. This is for disabled children and the children with special need. And then there will be special economic zone. This concept of special economic zone has been mentioned several times in the earlier version of the NEP 2020. But what will be the exact structure, we have not yet known about it. Concept of boarding school in line with Navodaya school has been speculated, around 5 schools for each district. And then this is again referring to the children with disability. And then after that comes concept of how shall a child go to higher education. Now, it's not mentioned here, but let me say there are 5 types of children going to school. 1, going to the mainstream school. 2, going to the open schooling. 3, going to homeschooling. 4, going to vocational education. And the last one is gap year children. It is permitted. that you can leave it, but don't inform that I am dropout. I am having 2 years gap. So children in the class 6 can leave the class and can come to the class 8 without attending the 2 years. Let us read this NEP 2020 in concurrent with the RTE Act. The RTE Act permits a child to enter into the class what we call age appropriate class. So the child leave the school at class 5, now the child is 14 years old, come back after gap year of 3 years, and the headmaster have to ask him, what is your age, my dear child? I am 14 or I am 13 and a half. So right class for you is class 8. Now in the class 8, according to the RTE in the government school, exam is not permitted. Therefore, he will not be evaluated. He will get a certificate of class 8 pass. So he is entitled now to get driving license for commercial license of the truck driving. Now, this child need to go to the higher education. For going to the higher education, there will be a test for all India by the national testing agencies. If you can pass this, even if you don't have a certificate, qualified certificate for class 8, you are permitted to enter into the secondary level. After secondary level, the same thing, for going to the higher education, we have to pass a test by the national testing agencies. Today, for central universities, we know that there is a new test called QET, Central University Entrance Test. Now, Conrad Sangma is negotiating with the central government in Meghalaya. People are unhappy when NEP 2020 comes in 2021, and we talk with the stakeholders, and nobody believes that how can our admission not be based on the score of the Meghalaya Board of School Education. And now the government says that will not give you admission on the basis of your board exam, will take additional tests, just like NEET test. And now people are having their voice only when the implementing stage comes. But before this, the Khasi Students Union, the Garo Students Union, has already declared their support that we support NEP 2020. Conrad already made public statement that will implement it in toto. Now how will they reverse their statement? So these are some of the situations facing by us for entering into the higher education. Now lateral entry. Lateral entry means you can be in the class 9. After class 9, you join vocational education. Then in the vocational education, you have scored something. That score is evaluated. Then a framework has been built up. On the basis of framework, a child who left in the class 9, join a vocational course, can come back to the general stream either in the class 11 or in the class 12. Or for that matter, the child is now a child of a farmer. The farmer's activities is now registered with a trademark as a business activities. So this child is now attending his papa's farm activities. But again, after 2 years, he wants to come back. Then his activities as a farmer will be incorporated, and he will be permitted living in the class 9, joining in the skipping class 10 and 11, then joining in the 12th class will be considered. But what will be the criteria? Centrally sponsored entrance test. So they will say, if you can qualify this test, you can go anywhere. There are consequences of this understanding, but that is for debate. Open entry, open exit. In short, one can leave anytime, one can enter anytime. Yeah, please go ahead. Am I going too slow? Shall I go a little faster? Okay, this is very important. In the NEP 2020, the smallest institutional unit of school education is not school. It is the school complex. What will be the consequences of a school complex? It needs much more intense dialogue. So there will be a school complex. There will be no standalone school. Private school, government school, they will combine together. There will be a complex. There will be no school managing committee. Instead of that, there will be a school complex managing committee. And there will be a single head for several schools. Now, involvement of the CSOs are encouraged. Resource sharing is very important. Suppose there is a school, it's a government school, it has a field, it has a lab, there is a private school next to it, they have students, then they can negotiate with the authorities so that the resources of the government school can be utilized by the private school. What will be the process of compensation, that detail has to be worked out. But the resources available in the X school can be available by the Y school on the basis of certain agreed terms and conditions. This is called resource sharing, twinning. No school will be permitted to live alone. A government school and a private school must twin. If there is 5 government schools and there are 20 private schools, then each private school will twin it at least with 1 school. That means a government school will twin it with 4 private schools. So this is called twinning. Here is a school complex managing committee. Now, concept of dropout. As we know, there are 5 types of the children: homeschooling, vocational education, open schooling children. They are outside the school, but they are permitted to use the resources in the school complex, provided they are given opportunities for this in a particular, this thing, case by case, they will consider that one. So they are permitted to visit and utilize, but they are not mandated to become a regular student. Yeah, please go ahead.
So regarding, just how big the slide I just wanted to ask you. You talk about a school complex.
Yes.
So the school will be a complex where government and private will be operating in one school.
It may not
And
be.
You also talk about training.
Yes.
So these two things, are they one and the same meaning, or?
Okay, within the campus, or intra or enter campus complex. Okay, suppose let's say that there is a school complex, it has 10 schools, and there is another school complex, it has 10 schools. The twin sharing can be across the complexes. Like for example, there is a high school maths teacher in this complex, and there is a 3 schools here without a teacher. Now, the government says that the teacher here is underutilized, so the teacher here must be mandated to teach here also. So the whole concept that it is my school will not be permitted. It is my school complex will come into the picture. And there is a political dimension of this complex, which we need a lot of further discussion. Why are they making this one? It's something we need to understand, but it is true that school as a standalone, independent, autonomous body is no more exists in NEP 2020.
The context of Manipur, would this be beneficial? Would this become beneficial in terms of the elimination of proxy teachers, especially in the rural areas in the new towns? So if government teachers are not present, so would this make it mandatory for teachers to do?
Okay, 3 things I would like to highlight. First, state government is paper tiger. They have nothing to do. In the transition period, they will have some power. But when it is implemented in full swing, the state government department individual will be pulled out within the new structure on deputation. They can have a copy for state government, but they are not mandated to report to the state structure. So even for career management, career progression, tenure track, all these things will be done by central government through online interaction. Now, in such cases, how much we can manipulate and how much we can continue to misuse, how much we can still continue the so-called malpractice in the education in Manipur. I think we are quite skilled and very, what to say, excellent in mismanagement. So, so I believe that we can prove to Indian government that yes, we can still continue the same practice. Of course, this joke apart, there is less scope of rectification in the local level, because the remedial measure and the meeting the grievances, the structure is so subtle that you cannot have an office where you can go and say it. It will be all online. So we can write 30 number, 40 number, 50 numbers of complaint. But how will we work it out, a mechanism that these complaints are considered seriously? So how many times we can go to Delhi? At least in Imphal, we can shout, we can do something, we can negotiate with our ADC member, we can negotiate with our MLAs. But if it is in Delhi, we become extremely powerless. So this is where NEP 2020 is a very, very, very centralized education system. Yeah. Can we come? So now it's very important. We have a notion that our school must be recognized. Now there is a notion by the NAC also earlier, for the higher education there is a concept called accreditation. The same concept is now applied for the school. School will be given accreditation for a period of 3 years. And this accreditation given, the education department will have no financial authority except for a period of 6 months. They can have some, they can organize within August, they can finance for that one. They can organize exam, they can finance that one. But the state education department may have no money to provide salary for a regular teachers. So state department, Department of Education will do the policy reach out and the policy monitoring. Then there will be additional Directorate of Education. The Directorate of Education will be implemented the policy, since there is no mandated duty to be given to the state department. This implementation will be as per central instruction. Now this is a school standard setting. A must be most likely A for achievement. I am a little bit confused about this. So this is again a centrally created body. Then this is qualification framework. Public disclosure means we have to inform in the website. Then public-private partnership. And then this is again achievement survey in the national level, and performance, achievement, renewal, and all those things, holistic knowledge and all this. All these bodies are centrally controlled bodies. They will use the manpower and the women power in the state machineries on the deputation, just like we have SSA's project director, SSA's district mission. But they will be paid by the state government, but they will not be mandated to be reported or to be ordered by the state department. It is to be under the command of the central bodies. Yeah. Now, higher education. I think this perhaps is the last slide. In higher education, as I said, there will be no college, or everything will be university. So if there is a college called Lamka College, it will be Lamka University, and it must have 3 disciplinary, it must have 3 stream, vocation, at least 1 vocational stream, 1 professional stream, and 1 general stream. That is the mandate. And this university must have minimum number of intake, and they are not supposed to be affiliated, but they are supposed to be independent university, to be directly reported to something called Higher Education Commission, and there is something called this is General Education. No, this is General Education Council. Okay, so this is the nature of the new universities. All colleges will be universities. If the college cannot upgrade to this level, then they will be removed. It also includes B.Ed college, independent standalone B.Ed college will be closed down. Not only B.Ed, all the standalone colleges with 1 single stream, that will be closed down. Of course, there will be interim period to adjust it, and the incentive, financial incentive must be from the government side. Then 4 years degree course, 1 year PhD, and no MPhil. So lucky for those young people. And the higher education will be controlled by the Higher Education Commission. Most likely it will be chaired by the Prime Minister, and there will be Regulatory Council, Higher Education Regulatory Council. There will be Higher Education Accreditation Council, Higher Education Grant Council, and the Higher Education Council, sorry, General Education Council. The General Education Council will intervene to the school level by having framework. This is Higher Education Framework, this is skill qualification framework, and the standard setting framework. These are all supposed to be done by the General Education Council. So in the higher education, there are 4 pillars, pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3, pillar 4. Now UGC will be dismantled. It's already as good as dismantled. UGC doesn't have the kind of the role that was playing earlier, and even the power structure within the UGC has been changing quite a lot. So it's a matter of time. Within a few years, higher education implementation is very fast now. Normally they don't inform that this is according to the NEP 2020, but many things are happening as per mandate of the NEP 2020. Yeah, please, let's go ahead. Now, this last one, I wish to take at least 2-3 minutes. Let me make a statement. NEP 2020 is a policy which is likely to be very difficult to implement unless the Constitution of India is amended in certain key areas. It has very important epistemic dimension. The NEP 2020 talks about global knowledge system. It talks about India to be becoming superpower. In the meantime, it also talks about promotion of local knowledge. What is local knowledge is not defined, but local knowledge is invariably associated with what we call Bharatiya Prasin Gyan, knowledge. Second one is that Prasin Bharatiya knowledge is to be promoted. In fact, they say 21st century's skill and the knowledge, it means Prasin Bharatiya knowledge. The NEP 2020 informed to us that whatever you don't know up to now is still in the scripture of the Indian religion. Okay. So we're supposed to hunt it. You look to the Indian scripture, every problem, the solution lies there. So that is the level of trust and the faith that NEP 2020 advocated. Now, in the meantime, they also talk about promoting scientific knowledge. I know things can happen. Even for those who believe God, we say in God everything is possible. So there must be some way to make it possible. But our common sense says that you cannot promote superstition and the scientific knowledge together. We cannot promote astrology and astronomy at the same time. But today we have all universities having department of the Purohit, priest. Banaras Hindu University, they have a department, and now they are promoting department for astrology. No comment at this point of time, but then as a citizen of India, we have every right to express our doubt and to request for meaningful dialogue. Now, there is another very important thing. Article 51 has been repeatedly mentioned in the NEP 2020, duty of the people, but somehow they met a wise policy of not mentioning fundamental right. So fundamental right is nowhere mentioned. Duty is overemphasized, right is not given the due space in the NEP 2020. Now, right to life versus right to generate knowledge. if we talk about global knowledge, if we talk about local knowledge, if we talk about Prachin knowledge, if we talk about scientific knowledge, all the four type of the knowledge today is given knowledge to us. It is prescribed knowledge to us. Still, in the university level, in the PhD, you may generate knowledge. But as a common citizen, as a person, our children are not taught how to evaluate a knowledge and how to generate new knowledge. That scope is completely curtailed in the policy in terms of epistemic dimension of the NEP 2020. Yeah, this much only. Thank you so much. I'd love to. Yeah, please.
Yeah, there are three things that I want to ask.
Yeah.
When we run it through the NEP, it appears that there's a state list and central list in the constitution, whereby the state has certain provision of their own to make decision. But in this NEP, almost all the state provisions over making education as their own policy has been completely taken away by the central agency, like the National Test Agency and this regulation and everything could be done by the center.
Yes, correct.
So the state rights of making education policy has been completely taken away. So there's recently on GST, the Supreme Court has given a verdict whereby the state rights of collecting tax and toll tax has been snatched away by the central government. Now the Supreme Court is saying this is something that you cannot take away from the state. The state has their own right of sharing the GST cost. So in light of this, how is it this NEP, if in case anybody or any agency challenge in the court of law, the constitutionality of it, how is it going to work? Is there any chance of standing in front of the court of law? And another thing is, when it comes to the rights of the minorities, which were enshrined clearly in certain provisions of the Constitution, especially in the from the fundamental right aspect. Of course, this document doesn't emphasize on the rights, but the Constitution is still intact there. And in the Supreme Court and the judiciary is still in function. How is it going to stand this antithesis of the government and the judiciary? In the process of implementing, if anybody challenges it, will it stand in front of the court of law?
Yeah, I think the right person to answer is Mr. Modi. But let me answer the first one first. The credit goes to Indira Gandhi. Srimati Indira Gandhi ji changed the education from state list to the concurrent list. So as of now, state cannot argue against the central mandate. One example is RTE Act 2009. Before RTE Act 2009, every state has an act to administer the education from the class 1 up to class 8. The moment RTE Act was enacted centrally, then all the state act is now annulled. It is no more effective. So the central act overrided. So likewise, the NEP 2020 is still a policy. So on the basis of this policy, acts are to be created, acts are to be prepared. So as and when time comes, whatever the act we are using it, we are having in the state level, that will be annulled, that will be overwritten by the central act. So Supreme Court has nothing to do because it is constitutional at the moment. The second part about minority concern about it, I also mentioned that NEP 2020 will be extremely difficult to implement unless a constitution is amended. Because minority right is constitutional and the NEP 2020 remain incomplete because they don't have so much concern about minority. SC reservation is not mentioned. Disability right is not considered to be important. So there are several areas of this NEP 2020 which at this stage seems to be unconstitutional. But it is extremely difficult to say unconstitutional because reading the document doesn't reveal everything. This document we have to read the line in between the words by referring to the way things are working right now. I'll just give you an example. A few years back, the Supreme Court intervened that you cannot make Aadhaar compulsory. Today, NIOS admission, Aadhaar is compulsory. Scholarship application, Aadhaar is compulsory. And in many areas, for NGO sector, FCRA renewal, Aadhaar is compulsory. These are against the spirit of the mandate given by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court interpret the Constitution. So based on the Supreme Court ruling, this is unconstitutional. But how much can we afford for protest? So therefore, while the work is now from the collective, it has been partitioned to the individual level. Then the space for collective protest is no more exists. And one of the objectives of the digitization is to stop the collective power. So digitization it is going very fast. The collective strength will be reduced. So the graph of the collective strength and the digitization will go in the opposite direction. And there will be a meeting point somewhere. That meeting point, once we cross it and it goes down, then there will be no space for us to have our descent in the collective manner. So this is somewhere we really have to take it very seriously about digitizing the education. It is not about whether we can buy the mobile or not. It is not about whether the teaching method in the online is good or not. It is about what will be the political implication in terms of power sharing. And digitization is a very dangerous trend in education because it completely destroys the collective power of the students to come together, to discuss together, and to act together for the betterment of our future. So this is where we have a strong concern. Yeah. Does it give the answer to the question?
So, sir, how long will you, in your personal opinion, how long do you think it will take to actually get implemented?
Okay, I really wish to draw. There are implementation is in the full swing. In the full swing. Only thing is that they don't inform us that it is implemented. They will never mention that this is an EP 2020. But new things are coming up. So implementation is in the full swing. And one example is that they will club schools together and they will say that organize sports together. Then choose a leader from amongst you. Conduct the exam amongst you. So they will sometimes say that you give your recommendation of this component of the implementation sitting together. So the government will start giving a kind of the instruction compelling you to sit together and combine together. Then the sharing will never come as an open notification that share the resources. On one fine day, the government will give a notice to the private school that we were informed that you have 3 mathematics teachers and here is a government school doesn't have a school. So will you kindly consider to utilize your school teachers to come to this government school? The appropriate compensations are this, and out of this 10% will go to the school managing committee. Now the managing committee will be very happy. 10% is coming. So they will definitely say yes. So government is not blind about how to appease us. So it will go, and it is happening in Gujarat. In fact, in Gujarat the curriculum has been changed. All the portions of the Akbar, the Mughal and all this already remove it. And so the whole implementation of the NEP is going on for the last almost 10-15 months in full swing without having a what we call disclosure to the people. So even for that matter, now Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan already built up a system that you write in the blackboard how much money you receive it. In the same way, next time government will say that there is an application Teachers come, we will have a one-day training how to use this application, and they will say, if you are absent, you do like this. If you are present, you do like this. If you are teaching a lesson on this day, you do like this. Then these applications will be utilized by the teachers, and those who are faithfully doing this application, they will be given incentive. And after all, we teachers are also same human being in our same society. How bad the action, as long as money is good, we normally compel ourselves to do it. Therefore, NEP 2020 is in a full swing. There, in fact, for the environmental education in Meghalaya, they have done the training for teachers. So they say, whatever you do, whatever you teach in environmental science, you must use this application, submit it. Now, outsourcing educational training to the corporate body is a common norm now. And the first outsourcing was started with the Asian Development Bank. Every school, particularly private school, good private schools, teachers are trained by the Asian Development Bank, and that was the preparation for NEP 2020. So today, they say B.Ed college will not be running it, but then who will train? So we NGOs, if we are having very good tie-up with the corporate social responsibilities, maybe we will have our share of benefit. But then, you know, when we do it with limited resources. And whenever those resources are limited, we exploit our next neighbor. We cannot exploit the big one. So somebody coming from Delhi, we will give good amount of good amount of honorarium, good welcome, and finally money is not so much. The resource come. So the next brother, who is my nephew, who is my brother, will say, don't worry, someday we will pay you more. But as of now, you manage it without having money. So we all will manage it. So government is asking that, manage it. So that is happening, and it is going to happen. But let us not lose our hope also. Doesn't mean that we don't have space. We have a beautiful constitution, and we have beautiful people like MK, beautiful people like Benjamin, and beautiful people like all of you. Once we are together, why not? This government is also made by human being only, and without us, they cannot run the government. So we really have to look for where is our bargaining power. And there are lessons to be learned from some other state also. Tamil Nadu Assembly already resolved in the Assembly that we will not implement NEP 2020. I don't know which state is going to follow. So we really need to act something. But that doesn't mean that there is no good things in the NEP 2020. If we read in the NEP 2020, from pedagogical point of view, from epistemological point of view, from the structural point of view, NEP 2020 is painted with a huge amount of cosmetic. So one can mislead it. It looks beautiful. But we have to look at it from three angles. First, structure. Second, epistemology. Third, resources. Now, they are crunching the resources structurally, extraordinarily centralized. Epistemologically, it has heavy bent towards Bharatiya Prachin knowledge. That makes us a little bit worried. So unless we become skylark, maybe someday we'll all merge it instead of emerging it.
Anybody, any organization, any individual working on fighting against NEP or improving or?
Oh, many. Many. In fact, National Alliance for People's Movement, they are terribly against NEP 2020. All India Forum for Right to Education, we have been fighting it against NEP 2020. In fact, we have seminar on the 7th of June also. And even the government machineries, we are fighting against NEP 2020. There are two departments. One is linguistic department, other is social science department in NERI. With the grace of God, I have been associating with this institution for quite some time, from 2005 onward. So we now trying to build up academic papers on the issues of minority language, tribal language. We have a workshop on 6, 7, 8 of June in Shillong. I'm right now I'm invited because we have concern in the meantime. They are kind enough to invite us. So we'll be discussing it. Now, as a government department, we cannot go a kind of the eye-to-eye things. So therefore, we are trying to convey to them in terms of academic input that NEP 2020 implementation is going to give negative consequences in terms of equity and equality. So therefore, certain areas we are going to recommend that make some changes in the NEP 2020. So this much we can do it. The ministry will decide what to do. And we also have a workshop in August. This also will be 1 week workshop. It is taken up by the Social Science Department of the NCERT. It is for about indigenous knowledge system. As they are talking about epistemic dimension of indigenous knowledge system versus local knowledge system, the gentleman who is heading the department is a nice gentleman called Nyomai from Tamenglong, and he is heading the department, and he is calling an All India consultation for the local knowledge. What will be the role of local knowledge in terms of pedagogy and in terms of curriculum in the NEP 2020? So there are groups, large number of groups in Maharashtra, in Tamil Nadu. In fact, Tamil Nadu government itself is against the NEP 2020, but in Odisha, in Northeast, unfortunately, most of the pressure group is willing to fight implementation only. Policy level, so far, unfortunately, it doesn't come up very strongly. So this is one thing, because NEP 2020 doesn't have any mandate for ST reservation. We are still silent. But someday when the Manipur University stops reservation quota, then only we'll raise our voice. So this is the situation. Yeah. And another one, very important thing we must know. In fact, I used to draw it, but let me draw an imaginary line. Okay. This is UPA, education policy. This is BJP education policy. And this is internationally accepted global education policy, what we call SDG 4, Sustainable Development Goal 4. UPA 1, UPA 2 built up a prepared ground for making NEP 2020 in terms of LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. India has already accepted the trade agreement, education as a tradable commodity in the World Trade Organization. So therefore, the whole change in the higher education and the putting different verticals and centrally coordinated universities and converting college into universities and all these things is in line with the norm given by the World Trade Organization. And this was not the work of the Mr. Modi. It was done by Manmohan ji. So it is continuing. So it is irreversible now, because economy will collapse it if we reverse it. So therefore, as long as the world is unilateral, European Union and these NATO countries are pushing us towards the market economy, then this trend of the education towards the market economy cannot be reversed, because these trade agreements stop, then we'll not get oil. Second portion is this continuation from UPA is now taken forward by the BJP. But BJP added one very important element in the NEP 2020, restoration and the renewal of the Vedic system of knowledge. It's up to us whether we accept it or not, but the state is mandated to make our children learn about Hanuman, because it's a way of life. It is not religion. So that is the element. Now there is a third element called global agenda. The global progressive agenda, what we call Sustainable Development Goal, doesn't go hand in hand with LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. In fact, the SDG stands for poverty elevation, it stands for equity, it stands for equality. Of course, the SDG is a synthesis of the socialist systems of economy and a market economy. But nevertheless, the theme and the intention is clearly progressive. This component also we cannot remove it. If we remove it, then we will lose credibility in the world. But if another government comes into the picture, the third component to restoration and the renewal of the Bharatiya Prasin knowledge can be curtailed. It may not be completely removed, but it can narrow down it. That possibility existed. Now, as far as an education policy based on globalization and an education policy based on SDG is a check and balance. The education policy based on liberalization will say that for us, whom to worship is not the God, but it is the profit. But these will be balanced by the intervention of the civil societies using SDG objectives that you cannot take money at the cost of our welfare. So therefore, the CSO's intervention mandated in the NEP is a SDG mandate. And in fact, in the NEP 2020, at least 7 times SDG 4 is mentioned. So that way, there is a hope for us. Yeah. Do I need to answer?
Let me ask one question, sir.
Yeah, please.
So there are 2 participants.
Yeah, thank you.
There are quite prominent institutions. Some are slightly younger, and some are still planning to start. So how should these educational institutions of different stages prepare to face the NEP? And do you think it is a good time right now to register or start a new institution, or do you think it is a bad time?
I'm not getting the question exactly. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, in hindsight, the impression that I got from your presentation is that educational institutions with more capital and manpower will have slightly more advantage in surviving under the NEP. So there are different institutions with more different capacities and capital. So how should these different institutions with different capacities prepare to come under the NEP and survive?
Okay. Let me make 3 statements, perhaps blunt statement. Starting from the period of 1995, what we call structural adjustment, the Indian education system is now pushing towards privatization. NEP 2020 tried to legitimize privatization by promoting a new concept called public philanthropic partnership. But right from 1995 onward up to now, earlier it was a programmatic intervention in the form of the DPEP and other allied agencies, and then now it is a policy intervention. The Government of India is promoting privately managed schools. Now with the concept of school complex, there is a possibility that school complex will not be taken very seriously if there is no missionary schools around. Okay. Because if there is 10 number of schools here and we have certain number of schools that the state would like to target it, then school complex structure will be intensified. But there can be some areas where emphasis is not demanded. I'll give you an example. Kiran Rijiju openly said that I promote and I eat beef. So he is a beef eating cabinet, not yet, beef eating state MP. It's a minister of state in the parliament. Okay. So he declared it, and nobody in the rank and the file of the BJP give any negative statement. Okay, chalo, let him talk like that for a while. But if this happened by somebody in the mainland, it will not be spared. Now, some BJP MP is saying that those who doesn't know how to speak English, they are not Indian. There is no action by the BJP. So, and there are many rules. Even in Meghalaya, one cannot sell, one cannot use tobacco product within the 50 meter from the distance of the schools. But it is next to school they are selling tobacco product, and the government doesn't have intention to implement the act. So in order to implement act, this thing, government is thinking of n number of new institutions, n number of new committees. If they really want to do this one in all India level, it will demand huge amount of budgetary allocation. So they may do this one selectively. So it may not be so much impacted. Now let's come to our, in our context right now. For a private school, I think that your strength is not the state. Your strength is the people. Now, if people are in your favor, then the school will survive. If the people are against you, then you cannot survive. But for example, there is a XYZ commercial school and they charge 10,000 per month. And you are a very good person and you are running another school nearby and you charge only 1,000. Your school is done as a budget school. The other school is done as a commercial school. But you maintain equally good quality or better quality. It immediately gives a threat to the existence of the next door school. So, lobby will come. In a situation like this, school running and advocacy and building up people's movement for a quality education through budget schooling must go hand in hand. So my own suggestion is this to myself, that Surjit, if you don't have any option, run a private school to be morally and financially and politically supported by the people of that locality. Then they will make the expensive school die when the inexpensive schools run by me comes into the pictures. Here, state will come forward to help us because state will give provision to get money through CSR. So there are some areas of hope also. If a private school really want to run a school for the benefit of the people, but the epistemological question of what to teach to our children may not be within your capacity. For that we need to build up political pressure to the central government. So how much shall we charge? What kind of discipline we will maintain? What kind of uniform will ask the children to dress in? These are something we can manage it locally. But the curricular framework that the center mandated to impose upon us may not be able to do anything by us until and unless we move it politically. Here, students' union can play a very important role, pressure group, okay? And who will convince the pressure group? Because the pressure group will wait for the implementation and the BJP will never make us known that they are implementing it. So It's a deliberate attempt of the state not to declare that they are implementing it. And they know how to appease these pressure group also. With all due respect, most of the pressure group leaders are from the poor strata of the society. So therefore, power and money, of course, they are spirited, sincere, majority of them are very good. But anyway, to err is human beings, so they can fall trap into the picture. Yeah. Does it give an answer? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, shall I sit down? I think people are moving it now, so.
Anyone has more question, then we can go on. Otherwise, I think we are also we have tomorrow session, so we need to rest.
Set your wish. We are very happy to this sir. Time we met, and I like to hear his intellectual discourse every time. Any topic, not only education. So he is well versed on this subject. And I'm very happy to host today. And we knew that he's coming, and we thought we can, and then let's try to rest. And we see for example, this is school association also. We thought they will be coming. But some might come, and some, because of the road was blocked at around 1 for this early recruitment. Even our school then could not come here. So I think some might come there. Anyway, we have a video record for YouTube channel. So you can watch and know what is behind, and not only behind, in the front also. So that they can take other step, and they can prepare the future more. Nung pinag papa, beti bang kinamama asing nilek nopsided din ta paikia source as my today power sawa di zincha ngale amnon do ya onkel lagi plus di kehat kulung dia to nom trawa kulung bol NIOS ki ha basic education OB jemo open basic education for up to class 8 more. Stage 1, stage 2, level 1, level 2, level A, B, C, mentioned. I have total student count here. As a parent support route, I support you to make stage 1. As a certificate need here, and I will support you. And this one, two hatan, two hatan from level. I put from so. Yeah, but Paulo, no, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So the program is over? Program is over? Okay. Thank you so much.
Nice to have you. Oh, yes. It